Hi everyone, I'm Daniel Gilbert-Valencia, and I'll be going over some rules you might want to consider for online learning. Much of this material was borrowed from a Coursera course called Learning How to Learn. So let's begin. My first rule is simply saving time. Now, how can you save time as an online student? Well, first, instead of spending 2 or 3 hours on your course just once a week, it's much better to spend as little as 10 to 25 minutes 4 days a week. Now, the result, even if you did 25 minutes, this is still only 100 minutes as opposed to 120 for a 2-hour session. So this is less time in the long run. But why this is great is because it spaces out your repetition of the material, your reading of that material, so your brain has more chances to really learn that material and make it stick in your brain. Spaced repetition is also great at defeating procrastination. So if you are like me, you wait to the last moment to do the things that you want to do the least. In my experience, students who don't check in are more likely to drop. They'll forget that they're even enrolled in the course, so they'll put it off too long, and then after 2 or 3 weeks they just don't try to come back. So not only is the 10 to 25 minute rule a lot shorter than doing 2 or 3 hours, is also more likely to make you stay in class. Now, this timer here, this tomato timer, I recommend you pick up some kind of cheap timer. You can use your computer as well, your cell phone. Just set it for 10 to 25 minutes, and that gives you an incentive. You know you're only going to have to be there 10 to 25 minutes. You're not going to be there for too long. Just to at least get started. Now, if you end up being there longer, that's your prerogative, but just get started is the number one rule. Number two is remember the bears. So we have Goldilocks and the Three Bears story from your childhood, where one bear had everything too hard, one bear too soft, one bear just right. All right, so as a first generation college student, one of the issues that I had was studying too much or too little. I'd go back and forth depending on the course and if I liked it. Now, studying too much, the courses I liked that I found easy, I would study too much. I'd sit there and spend 3 hours on something instead of 1 hour because I enjoyed it and I felt productive. Whereas the courses I did not like, I would avoid them and study very little and do poorly. So you can have negative consequences for both these, and you're wasting time if you're studying too much on material you already know or you feel really comfortable with. So I recommend you don't do that. And your brain's, it's not learning anything efficiently at that point when you've spent 3 hours on something you know really well. So when you study too little on subjects that you find challenging, you can fool yourself by looking at it once or twice and thinking you know it, but if you're not spending enough time with that material and you're not repeating that material over a time span of 4 or 5 days, you aren't able to build the solid foundation with that material. All right, number 3 is eat your frogs. Now this is about doing the things you don't like to do first when you're fresh in the morning. This is a struggle, I know. My frog is exercise, and it's a challenge every day to make myself do that first, but you need to do the things you don't want to do when you're fresh. Once again, set that timer, 10 to 25 minutes, just to get yourself started. Turn off your phone and just focus as much as you can on that one thing. Reward yourself when you're done. Reward yourself for a job well done. Set your reward up in advance so you know you're getting that special thing, that candy bar, that time with Facebook, whatever it is that makes you happy. Reward yourself and take a break after that 25-minute focus period. You don't want to forget your breaks after you eat those frogs. Number 4, practice makes permanent. What I mean by that is you need to take that 4 days to go over the material little by little by little. You don't want to do it all at once because practice is what builds that foundation that allows you to recall later for those tests. So you might want to consider using flashcards. You can use flashcards on your cell phone as well, just to test yourself on the material. Another good thing to do is to try to explain it to someone else the way that you think you would need to explain it for a 10-year-old to get the concept that you were studying. Once again, you want to avoid overlearning, so if that material is getting really easy for you, go to the hard material. So repeating something you already know is easy. Switch to the hard material and focus on what you find is difficult. I have this image right here. Now, something that you do all the time, it becomes ingrained in your brain to where you can pull up that that thought of how to do that thing really quickly. The first time you see something, it's really light in your brain. It's not solid in there. And if you don't repeat it, you don't come back to it, it just fades away. So your brain washes that memory right out. So you want to be sure you're repeating frequently so that way you can solidify those thoughts in your head. Now, solidifying requires sleep. One of the things I wasn't aware of while I was doing a lot of my coursework was that I needed sleep. And working full-time, going to college full-time, and having kids meant zero sleep for me. And I realize now what damage that did to my learning process. So sleep actually washes away toxic particles that are in your brain. And if you don't sleep, those don't wash away. It makes it difficult for you to learn new concepts and also to recall things when you need to recall them. And finally, when you do sleep, your brain strengthens the important memories that you had throughout the day and it erases less important memories. So right before you go to sleep, if you think about some of the things that you think are really important for you to remember the next day, you even just have a list with you and you go over that and try to put the list down and recall those things. When you sleep, your brain will strengthen those memories. Okay, learning checklist. So as you go through each week in this course, go ahead and go through this checklist. Ask yourself these questions, and you want to be able to answer yes to each of these questions. So did you make every effort to understand the material in the course? Did you try to recall or practice the material on 4 different days? Did you check your understanding with classmates by participating actively in the online groups or discussions? And did you consult with your instructor if there was anything that you didn't quite understand? And also, did you get enough rest? And that goes back to the sleep question. Now, these are the things you really need to be truthful with yourself whenever you ask these questions. And I admit that I often have gone through classes and I have not done these things. But it really does make a difference with your long-term memory and really mastering the material that you need to go on to the next level. So please take these seriously. The one that I want to leave you with, number 7, is that you can learn anything. I have been guilty of really looking up to people that I thought had the brain power that was above and beyond mine. But with learning, there's really no need to envy those people. You have everything you need within you. And one of the things that always strikes me as something to keep in mind is famous learners, famous experts like Darwin, struggled with learning in the beginning. You need to give yourself the time and also forgive yourself for needing the time, whatever the time it takes for you to master a subject that you need to master. Sure, it might take you longer than another person, but taking longer does not mean that you're worse. It just means it takes you longer for that subject, and you get to the same goal, which is mastering. That is what matters. Also, think of your brain like a muscle. You're not going to walk into the gym today, lift weights for 8 hours straight, and think you're going to come out an expert. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be the super bodybuilder after 8 hours. You need to go every day, and you need to practice. And it's the same with your brain. You need to practice the material, short bursts every day, and you'll get there. So just take your time, do what it takes, follow that simple checklist, and you will realize your goals. So that is all I have for you. I wish you all the best in your learning journey this semester.